Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Is everything set up okay? Can you see everything, hear everything? Good evening, everybody. Hi, Jeff. Hi, Judy. Hi, Luke. Hi, Wendy. Well, Wendy, what can I say? I feel deeply honoured that you should forego your painting period just to watch me. I wouldn't have it any other way. You know that. Thanks for joining. Right. I hope this is going to be okay tonight. I'm a little bit worried that the internet here today has been extremely slow. So I'm hoping that the feed will stay and we won't get a problem. Oh, hope not. Here we go again. Is that any better, Wendy? Can you talk? I'm talking now. I think the battery's gone on my other mic, so I'm using the camera mic. Are we okay? Can you hear me? Is everything fine? I'm hoping there's no buzz, no nothing at all now. I've simply disengaged the mic on top. A little bit quiet here too. Can't hear any buzz. Okay, well, tell me what you can hear once you hear me talking behind Les of a Donkey. And hopefully it'll be fine. Hi, Luke. We'll give it a little longer. We're a few minutes ahead of time. I think that's better. Thanks. Yeah, it was the quite a simple thing, Wendy. The battery in my shotgun mic had died without me knowing. It gives me some idea how that goes, but is the sound okay? Because I will take the mic off and redo the battery if it needs to be done. My voice? What's wrong with my voice? Judy, what's wrong with my voice? It's my same voice I had last week. Anyway, hopefully that will be okay. Now then, we are 11 people enjoying this, so there's nothing to enjoy yet. Okay. What a busy day I've had today. Mark, good evening to you, sir. Thanks for joining us. I'm ready with pen in hand, pencil in hand, ready to crack on with David Lloyd's wonderful home of Great Dixter. Love this place. I'm not a gardening person as such. I mean, I like to garden, and Catherine does most of our gardening. Teresa, good evening. Hi to you. Wondered if you'd join this one because it's a house. I know what you like with architecture. Jim, good evening to you. You can hear my voice. That's good. That's the main thing, Judy. Derek, good evening to you. John, good evening to you, sir. Good. Thanks very much, John. That's great to know that. Love the image for the Great Dixter piece. Yeah, it's a cracking place. I love it. As I was just about to say to people that I'm not really a plants person. I mean, I dug enough ground in the past to vegetables and stuff. But my wife, Catherine, does most of our garden. She does an admirable job. I'm just there to pick up the grunty bits that she needs. But I absolutely fell in love with two places. One of those is Sissinghurst and the White Garden there. But this place of Lloyd's, this is an amazing gardens just outside of Bodiam in East Sussex. Well worth a visit if you are there, when of course we can go to these places. I'm sure it won't be long before it opens to the public, but it is a wonderful old home. And if you go inside, which you can do, the floors are just they're everywhere. You know, you couldn't even play a game of something on it. The balls would just roll away. Yeah, I can't wait to have another go down there. I just love the place, and it's so wildlife friendly. You know, the whole of the guy who worked with David Lloyd, who runs it all now. He worked with David Lloyd, I think, more as an apprentice gardener back in the day. He's sort of very much for butterflies, insects, and it's such a wonderful place to go and visit. Anyway, I've spouted on about Great Dixter long enough. Now I'm going to start to think about doing some work. Alright, so I am going to just increase and look at the image generally before I get on. Now I've got a bigger image to look at than you guys are, and it's a case of plotting it really, and I have got some refreshments ready to hand, so I should be okay for the evening. That's good. Yeah, Sissinghurst Judy is really a great place to be as well. Okay, we're up to 16. I better do something. Right, okay, so let's just start looking at the overall plan. We've got a lovely path that sort of gently, if a pen works, great, you can't work with this technology sometimes. Come on, there you go. So we've got a lovely path that sort of disappears away and into the path as it's so like that. Comes way down past us and disappears up through the back. There's something of that nature. We can play around with that a little bit further on. Now, is the screen here, all of this, is this normally as it's clear? Because it looked decidedly dark to me today. I think I've been suffering a little bit of hay fever, and although I don't normally suffer, I think it's literally got to me today, and I keep taking my glasses off and cleaning up my glasses, thinking that they got smudged up and what have you. No, not David Lloyd George, John. It's David Lloyd. He was a writer and gardening expert. No, he never married. Sylvia, good evening to you. He never married. He died alone. I think he had other family, but he was devoted to the development of Great Dixter as a garden. Yeah, it's just great. Anyway, I digress. I am working on a 300-pound heavyweight paper, so that I hope will. We've lost a couple of people. I've upset somebody already. Good evening, Ben. How are you, sir? Now then, if something really goes cockeyed with this tonight, it's because we've got issues here, or we have had issues all day with the internet being very slow, very sluggish to respond. So, and at one point we actually lost everything. So hopefully that won't be the case. The house. Looking at the angles, put your marks on. I can't put it on the picture to show you, but if the picture, if I could, you would have the angle of your pen, and you could put it on top of different parts of the building. The lie of the roof. I'm trying to do this under the camera. The lie of the roof. Get it on the angle and then transfer it to your paper, and that will be a very good indicator for you to look to getting where you want it to be. So this to me again is all about the drawing once more. I'm putting on the first chimney, and I'm just going to suggest that little elongated square there to begin with. And I hope from there I can then start plotting everything else that I need to do moving forward. So there's that. That comes up a little bit above the chimney like so. So the chimney is got its little edge there and a little edge there, and so we have our chimney, and we can then take that all the way down through here, and we can run that down there to the other chimney, which is going to be a lot lower than the first one, and it's also set back, so the ridge of this roof will come in, and I think I need to have it a little bit steeper than that. Very much a easy thing to get wrong are these angles, so I think we've got a much steeper look to the roof like that. Okay, try hard as you can not to put too much in terms of erasing out on this. Okay, so let's try and look at that, and we've got the ridge into there, and then it comes down, and that's really that part of the roof there is done. We've got a lower slant there to the back end of the roof, where it's obviously gone further down before it then comes away under the foreshortening like so. And then we've got this angle that's coming up here. Now there's nothing stopping you, if you wanted to take lines off to infinity and start doing it that way if you wish to. Or indeed you can quite easily look at this painting with a view to maybe squaring up your canvas and taking it on from that way. Lots of ways to achieve the drawing, but I'm trying to do this literally as I go. And Great Dixter was a family home, the garden and gardener writer Chris Lloyd. Yeah, that's what I said. Got that bit right. It was the focus of his energy and enthusiasm, and fueled over 40 years of books and articles. Yes, he did a lot of writing, not only for things, newspaper, magazines and books and stuff, but he also did a lot for other journals and different bits and pieces. Right now, this one I've got already wrong. It always pays to really sit and look and study at the object that you're doing. So that comes up there, and it's quite to that point there. It's much lower than this one. This one we haven't put the cap to yet. We can put that on. And this one's got a cap here, which we need to put on. And that goes and disappears. And then we come along the ridge. And this ridge is not level. It actually comes down away like so. And it's not maybe as long as I'm suggesting. So it's a little bit of feel and see how it goes. There comes along this way, which should be parallel pretty much. It will have a slight taper, but it is almost parallel. And then almost in line with this one, you've got this cat slide here, which has got a section which is in, I can't quite work out whether that comes out or what, but there is a little bit of a section here like so, and that comes along and down to there, and then we come into what will be the angle of this part of the roof here, and this one goes along, and that roof comes out from there. It's more steep than I've got it, more steep, steeper, like that, and a little angle, and this one maybe comes down a tad, or this one comes up a tad like that, I think, and that then goes off the side like that. Alright, so we're sort of around about where we should be. Sorry, Jim, the drawing board needs to go a little up and a little right for my screen. So if I go that way, because that's the edge of the paper just there, there's tape here, but you're not, that's the edge of the tape running down there, so you can actually see the entire part there. So hopefully you're not missing too much, my friend. Yeah, I'm just sort of checking the chat before I carry on sketching. Just going to clean that line up there along that ridge before we carry on. Back into there, just tidy that up, take that down and put that up through there like so. And then we got these double chimneys here. Now they are probably a little higher than this one, but not as high as the other one. So let's come about there with them. And they are a double set, and they come across the fascia of the end of this building. So there's a little diagonal there where they're sitting in. Then we've got another steep part there. Comes up into the nose of that, and then this area here will come up, and that will come down there to meet it. Now I think that that area here is a little too big, if I'm honest with you. So I'm going to check this first, and looking at the way this roof is, it actually comes down and it's a very funny angle. It's something like that. It's not as straight as I first put it. Got a funny little dog leg in it. So we're going to put that in there, and then bring that and suggest that comes down there. That then means that that is not too far off. I can actually shorten it a tad, which will probably not be a bad thing. Just check that and let that come down like so. And we've got the base coming through to there. So we've pretty much, not quite, but pretty much done our roof. And so we can come back into this part of the building here and look at the old timber structure on the top of this house. You can't see anything here because of the big bush. So we can bring this one along here like that, and then just before there, that section stops, we have brick in here. I'm not sure the age, whether it's Queen Anne or Elizabethan or what. It's extremely old. Treble set of windows through there, which we can just indicate. We don't need to do too much for that. And then we got this part here which comes out and keep those walls nice and plumb. And there is a huge hedge here which we can no longer see any more of the building. And we've got the lower section of the house which we can just start picking out some of the windows in here, which we will just indicate one there and one there, and then something in here. And then we've got these timbers, 1, 2, a bit closer together than that, I think. We've got 1, 2, 3 and 4, just as an indication. We've got the beam through there, and then we've got these ones here. I'm just going to literally, with a bit more care than that, just try and suggest them. There's a little window down the side there which we've missed, and we've got this top section up here. Now this part comes up quite high there, and then we come down here with this section like so. Just keep checking the drawing. This part is a little wider, so let's just take that in a little bit. It's not as wide as it was. Then we've got several little facets here which we need to observe. Little dark little section on the end of that one too. And we've got the top and the top and a little bit of corbelling, and let's come back down to there like that. Okay. Where are we? Little window across the top here. Let's just put that in. Little attic window. And then what I would have thought was a bedroom window. You can tell how low these come down on the eaves to where this window is. You can see that set way above these eave heights. So it's a really cranky old house. And the bottom, the ground floor, is a great big medieval type hall. It's wonderful. It really is just a wonderful building. I could have spent all my time just walking around that building, to be quite honest with you, but I was told I couldn't. So the boss said she wanted to see more flowers. Anyway, I'm joking around. It's the way it is. It's good. It's all good. Right, now we've got all of this stuff going on up here. A great big looks, I don't quite know what heart. I don't know any of these plants, if I'm honest with you. And I'm not going to try and paint each and every individual one. I just want to get a feel for the garden. We have a lot more. I could have made this house bigger in the picture and put less space around, which is more akin to where the photo is. But the photo is a little squatter than I've got on this paper. So I didn't want to do that. I wanted to play around with the idea that this we can extend the garden in a sense. We can put in, so I think here we've got this in the wrong place now, because I brought the house up quite high. Around here we've got this lovely big old bush coming in, and we've got this pathway. Now the pathway therefore will emanate or start from way back up here and then come down, and it will disappear there, and we can put it in through somewhere like that, or maybe not as wide as that. Come down here from it like there. Okay, now that really is probably closer to where we should be looking at the path, which gives me a little bit more playroom in here. There's a nice bit of prepared grass there, and a lot of rough grass here. We have got the path disappearing into shrubs and bushes out the back here, so we're going to start putting something like that in. Big old bush through here, quite a dark one, and that can come up, and we can put some other stuff in here, this bush here, and lots of ground cover. I think that I've still got this path not quite looking how I want it to, so I'm just going to start suggesting some of these shapes that are sort of growing over the path. Some of these wonderful planting scheme that they've got here is very haphazard, and the mixes that he made when he did his gardens were completely regarded by many at the time as completely off the wall, and mixing colours that should never normally be mixed together in traditional schemes of gardening, and he bucked the trend, and yeah, and showed many how actually doing certain things worked extremely well. I think that needs to come down a bit lower like that, just making a slight adjustment to the roof there, and let's get that into there like so, and then we can take this back down there, take that line out. I think that's a little better adjustment on that. I'm still not quite sure what's going on with this thing, because there is a curvature in the roof. The that sort of comes down somewhere like that, and then we've got a little bit up here, and then this part is sort of coming out and curves like so, and I guess that just goes flush into the slates above. But this is quite an anomaly, this little shape here in the roof too, quite unusual. We've got half brick up here and through there on that side. We're going to make that look as though that is going down and not flat all the way across, so that's got to come through there like so. And look, we've got all that through there. We've got this dark hedge affair, it's got a little bit of a V shape to it, and a point there. Let's put that in. So there's our sort of hedge, and then we've got all this planting scheme that's going all the way across the building up to here. Loads of it. It's just a massive wide borders. Now I'm not going to try, as I said to you just now, to paint each and every flower. It's going to be a myriad of green washes, and a little bit like I did when I did Great Dixter's tropical garden before, with lots of lovely little green plays on it. That is a video on my channel that I speak of. It wasn't a subject of a stream, but it was, as I say, a video that I did a few months ago where I painted the lovely old what was, I understand, an old cow shed, but was converted and became part of David Lloyd's tropical garden. So I think we're pretty much ready, set to go. I quite like the arrangement. I've missed a window out here, we better stick that in. Quite a way odd one again, right up under that eave. And let's just suggest these. I'm not going to count them, so please don't count these. I'm just going to put them in like so. Hopefully that's about right. And we've got a downpipe there, and we've got a similar sort of thing going down here. And they disappear because of the light. And let's just look at quickly at the structure of the windows, and they got 8 glass panels, so we dissect it into the 4 like that, and it gives us our 8 with our cross mullion or whatever it is that way. Right, yeah, I think we're pretty much good to go. Couple of bits in that window there. Can't quite see how it forms up on that one, nor can I see too much on this one either. So there won't be too much. And this one here actually should be. It's a little bit of a bow. There's a little bit of a cantilever there, and so we've got 1, move that. There's actually 4, so they put the 4 in. And you've got 1, 2, 3, and 4 up into the corner there. All right, okay, so sorry about that. A quick glug, and off we go. Yum, yum. Hi, Hannah. Thank you very much. I appreciate you joining. Thank you. Well, the sketch has probably got 1 or 2 issues with it. I hope not too many. Hopefully we can get this about right and to look like Great Dixter at the end of the evening. Yeah, not so bad. Not too bad, I hope. So we will carry on. Just going to make 1 or 2 final sort of checks and make sure we're about right where we should be. That I want a bit of light down there, so I'm going to take that piece of the pencil mark out, give that a little bit of darkness under the section there, and that will give us the top of that chimney. And just check on this one here and let that come down. There is an edge to that one, which actually the light is coming, I keep getting that wrong, because the light is coming from this side. Any light there is. It was a lovely day at this point, but there was a lot of grey cloud around overall, so we had the best of the day, I think, at this point. I'm just going to check that there. Alright, I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to fiddle otherwise and it will go horribly wrong. Phil, good evening to you. James, good evening to you, sir. How is Spain today? I hope it's good. Right, now I'm going to just clean my palette very quickly. I actually didn't do it after the last session, which wasn't with you guys. Actually, I painted a little blue tip, which I put up on my Instagram feed. I had a little guy, I just had a little time the other day and I just fancied painting a little garden bird, so I painted a blue tip. And as I say, it's up on my Instagram offers, and so I didn't clean up my palette after doing that, which is a bit naughty, but there you are. We're ready to go now. Jim, you seem to have a bit of a problem with your computer tonight. Hopefully not too bad. Hope you are still getting enough of this to enjoy. Right, I am going to come out. Now the thing is that I can put a wash all the way through this if I wanted to, with the exception of that area down through here and maybe the path and 1 or 2 other bits and pieces of flowers, which I probably will go back in with the flowers with a little bit of white gouache at the end. Oh good, well done, James. Then, you know, you could go on with a wash, but I'm going to put in, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to come in with a blue sky. I'm actually going to give this a bit of a blue violet wash, and I'm going to actually see how that goes. So I'm going to come across and I'm going to put that all the way through the back end here of this sky, and I'm just going to come all the way down. Might actually add a bit more strength to the top. I am going to chicken out. I'm going to come in with a bit of blue into that now, and just take that all the way through. Actually, I'm not. I'm going to miss the areas of the chimneys because there is that lovely light area, and I'm going to leave a little bit of suggestive cloud too. I wasn't going to, but I will do, and let that come all the way down through this growth, and it can then just not do anything at all. It can just end there and be done with it. And I'm going to look at this side now. Because I'm using heavyweight paper, I can get away with this bead staying wet and not drying up on me. Often when people do this, they take way too long on a wash, and if they're using cheaper papers, or not, it's not necessary, it doesn't have to be cheap papers. If you're using a paper that is maybe lightweight, then say, you know, anything sort of under 200 pounds, then you're going to end up with one or two extra problems. I'm going to take that all the way down through here, all the way to there, and just let that settle up. I can't quite see what's going on, but I think we're pretty much there. I don't want a dark ridge here, so this is where the paint is settling. So all I'm going to do is dry it out, take the worst of the moisture out of the brush, and let it become a sponge. And don't worry about that little line that's just appeared along the roof. The paint will gently work its way back into that situation. There we are. I'm quite happy with that, and there's our wash done. We have a couple of clouds suggested. We can take them out or we can leave them in as we wish to. Now I am just going to put in a very base green. This is still quite wet, so I'm going to come in with a little bit of lemon or aureolin, quite a pale green colour, and I'm going to bring that into some of these areas here and through here, and let that come all the way down through. There's a nice light base green colour that I can then come back in and work on with, including the grass area and area, not the path. We're going to leave the path for now, but we will work on that very, very soon. I'm just going to bring enough colour in will be good. A bit more blue, a little bit more. Lovely fresh colours of green. Look at that lovely sunlight hitting that green is wonderful. I'm not going to cover it all in. I'm going to leave one or two areas out that I can plant and plot and drop in other little colours as we move forward. Something like that. Okay. And I'm going to come down through here with this lovely quick mark of grass. Again, I can leave little bits. I don't need to worry about having the whole of the area covered. Just very, very scratchy. And this is what the heavyweight paper really allows you to skip over and leave little bits of white area moving forward. I think I want to put in, I don't need to worry about this green going in here, because at the end of the day it's going to be a lot darker anyway, so we don't need to worry about it too much. Alright, now if I want to, I can then come in with some other colours of green. We're using aureolin now and a bit of ultramarine blue, and we can just pop some of these colours in. Just let them run where they want to, but look at your drawing, look at the photo, look at what you're doing, and see where you can best implement these darks, just to start suggesting other bits of planting and deep parts of the foliage. Don't let it come all the way through. You just want it in certain places, but then that will add to the overall design of what you're trying to achieve further on. So I'm just coming in one or two areas here, leave little bits of this and that to show through. So you don't really want to just come in and replace what you've done with another colour. You need to be able to leave one or two areas that are very, very much open to extra work on further on. So as I say, I have no idea what half these plants are, and I'm not really worried. I just want a beautiful sense of colour and light and shade and all sorts of things going on. And we're going to put a little bit of darker values up in here. Going into this one, we can actually take that all the way through into this part here and just let that dry up and settle down. And a bit more up in there. Actually going to cool that down. I put a little bit of indigo with that and just tap in a deeper bluish green. Oh, don't want that in there. Come on, get out of it. Yes, just tapping in a little bit twice. And one up there. Watch for that. It's because I'm working on a very flat angle. I normally have it about 45 degrees, and it's where I'm just not lifting the brush enough, and I'm just flicking the head of the brush and giving myself an extra problem, which I didn't really want. I want to keep that quite a soft edge there. I'm just going to dab that out, dry that off, so that paint here will not really go any further now. It won't want to creep into that space so easily. Paint will only go, or colour will only go where the paper is wet. Remember that. So all the time you are painting away, If you've got an area like here, it was dry, I didn't allow it to come further with any wet, and so therefore I was able to preserve that sharp line across the roof. Then I come in with a little bit of Indian yellow in one or two places, and that gives me a different value of greens and lights, and just playing around, tapping the brush here and there, and the dampness of the paper will allow those colours to blend and move around a little bit, and that really is quite a nice way forward, because it just softens all those little value accents that we're changing as we move forward with this. I'm going to get a lot darker with some of this, so don't worry too much. It's looking a little bit possibly insipid right now, but we will get a lot heavier with some of our colour, and that's got a lovely shade. So I'm going to put in a little bit of cobalt to that and just come in with that lovely shade through there from this fella like that, and leave that like that. Okay, Bexhill. Good evening. Late again. Haha. Not a worry. Good to see you, sir. Right, now then, that's pretty much dry. I've been doing a lot of this area, just playing around with it while this area in the sky dries off a little bit for us. So now hopefully we can come in with our first layer of the building itself. And for that I'm actually going to use a little bit of magenta, just a tap of the blue, just to shift it off, a little bit of orange, just keep looking at the subject. Quite a weak solution, and I'm going to go over quite a bit of it. I'm going to go over, just want to check that is dry enough, yes. Just want to go over sort of areas like this, come down into the roof, and they will change, the values will change, but this is just an initial look at the overall underlying colour or local colour that this roof is. I'm going to come into that part of the chimney too, and into this one, and through this section of the roof, take it all the way along the ridge, and even you can actually excite a little bit more orange, a little fresher into that section there. That's not a bad idea. Take that all the way to there and up this side too. Now it gets, if we just bring that, it's going to get darker, but I'm just going to suggest that this gets a little cooler on this section here. So I'm going to put that in. That's probably a little too much, if I'm honest. So I'm just going to take some of that away with the brush, take some of this out, like so. Now we've got a purple roof, which not necessarily needed, so let's lift some of that out, because I really wanted a cool suffusion of colour, not necessarily out and out purple or violet, come to that. I just wanted that soft cool value. So we've got that, and we will leave that alone for the moment and come back in with some of our reds and oranges, magenta, a little bit strong, just tap in a bit of green. Green is the complementary to the red, and it will therefore cool down the values that we are using. So let's just take that in through here, and then that's fine. We can drop a little bit of warmth into that. Take this all the way back out to the top again, and get rid of those two little white marks. Take this down here. Now I have given myself a bit of a problem, because I should have finished that section before I moved on. It was a little bit drying up on me. It hasn't done. I've got away with it. But be aware that, you know, if you do allow paint to dry up, it will leave you a bit of a line, and that's not necessarily what you want to happen. So let's just leave that for a moment, and I want to put in a little light, just take some of that out there. I want to drag a bit of the material off. It's a bit of a sort of a rain streak, or a couple of lines that are coming down the building like so. There's a little edge which we can leave or not. We can just drag a little bit of material off. Here we've got enough light that when we put the dark in, it's no issue to us at all. I didn't do the whole of that other chimney. I'm just going to do the bottom brick section and leave it at that for the moment, and come back into that top section, which is a rendered surface, I think. Alright, so the walls are, the brick is quite a bit warmer, especially down here. So let's just check that out and just put a tap of colour in. Nice and warm and hot and fiery. And we've got a bit of a green part there, but we'll leave that to that. And then we can come in with a bit of blue violet into that. And just, I'm being careful, I've got wet paint here and I'm trying to not stick my fingers all over it. So let's just come down through here. Same brush all the way through pretty much. Take down the side and underneath where we can't see too much, but we've just got the end of, or what we can see of the building. Take that up into there, down around that window, and the window is now isolated. And if you've got this as too strong, I only really needed it for that one little bit of the building. So I'm going to come in and temper that down now with some more violet, which will kill off that red quite nicely. And let's look into this area here. We've got a bit of sort of dark in here. It is predominantly very dark in there. We can't quite see what's going on. I'm just going to bring that into there and use some of this negative space like that, just to suggest that you've got the bush going up and the building coming down. Not quite sure where one bit starts and the other bit stops. I'm going to take that all the way through to there, like so, and just leave it at that. And careful how far this way I come. I don't want to wreck anything of that. And then we've got the other part, and here's a little bit of brick we can start to see here. So we can do that, and again we can just tap one or two areas in. I did this, if anyone's seen today's watercolor video, you see I do this a lot. It's actually just down the road. I went to, and I painted Bodiam, the river Rother, as it runs past the bottom of Bodiam Castle. The castle's not in my picture, but the river certainly is. What's happened here? Something's come on and I can't see what's going on. I'm chatting away. I just hope you're all still there. Yes, you are still there. Where is Great Dixter? Because I'm sure I've heard of it. You have. You've obviously been to things like the Kent and East Sussex Railway, Luke. That's just down the road from it. You've got a place called Bodiam, and you've got the Bodiam station on the KESR. And then you go up the road a little bit and you come to Great Dixter, which I'm right in saying is Northiam. I'm not 100% sure. I think it's Northiam. But yes, so it's a great place. Right, another glug I feel coming on. Right. Any questions anyone's got, please just put them into the chat, and hopefully I'll see them and I can answer them for you. Now, the side of the building is in a great deal of light. I'm going to use a very, very thin amount of raw sienna, just to suggest that it's going down. That's catching that sunlight on that side. There is a bit of a hedge, which the bush I'm going to bring up a little higher than I've got it. We can do that later. It's not a big deal. Then we've got the same colour. We've got that raw sienna, but it's now tempered. It's now darker. We're going to put some of that little blue violet into it. Blue and the yellow of the raw sienna work with each other. They kill each other off. Again, they are the complementaries of each. So they will work like so. Now that could be, in my opinion, just a little bit too dull. So let's just come back in, and I'm going to put a little bit more yellow directly into that mix and lift some of that colour out before I proceed. That way we can retrieve some of that shady wall colour. And don't forget, this will dry up a lot lighter than it shows here. Let's take that down. In fact, we can put that all the way through. There's no need to worry too much on that. Take that to there. We can't see too much what's going on here. We now got to let this whole area dry up, and we can leave that until we come back for a second run over the whole house, which we will do. Wow, I think we're heading for a record. We've got 26 people, I think, watching. That's excellent. Thank you very much to all 26 of you that have joined me tonight. It's jolly kind of you to spare the time. Right. And that wasn't meant to be rude. That was a genuine thank you very much. I'm going to put some orange together and a bit of yellow together. And I want to come in with some cobalt to make a green, which is a little bit sludgy. Now, do I really want that sludgy green? I'm not too sure. I'm going to leave that there for a minute. I'm not too sure about that value. Yes, Nordium. Ben, very quick comment, very quick question of you while you're listening. My lapel mic, my thingy, Sennheiser one, with the 3.5 jack, can that go into my new Mac laptop and record sound through that directly into the Mac? I don't know if I can do that. It'd be great if I can, because it will be a much easier way to record voiceovers without having to set all the stuff up and then later on taking the card out, downloading the card, transferring it over to the footage and all the rest of it. When you paint in your studio, is it quiet or do you have music? Good question. And the answer is, these days, I'm more often than not, I am filming as I paint. And with that, if that's the case, then I don't have any music on, because I'm talking to camera, and very much in the same way as I'm talking to all you guys now. So with that said and done, if recently I've been doing a whole heap of films, and I just decided, I was actually talking to another friend of mine who does very much the same as I do, and we just said, isn't it lovely just to like switch the darn cameras off and just sit there and paint something for the sheer hell of it. And so for the last couple of few days I've been doing just that. I've just sat down, got the oils out, painted a couple of three nice, really nice little paintings that I can put out. And I have been singing my heart out to some great old Joe Cocker and having a ball. And which upsets my wife, because she's not so keen on Joe Cocker, but I love it. So that's it, and that's what I normally do. Yes, so the long answer is that. The short answer is, depends what I'm doing. If I'm filming it, James, then I'll not have music. If I'm not filming, I do like to have something on. I am a big fan of Hans Zimmer, and I do like to have some of his soundtracks working as I'm painting. Anyway, enough said. Let's carry on with this painting. I'm going to come in and start getting a little bit more specific. A little bit of cerulean blue into that. That's awfully strong blue. Green, sorry. So I'm going to temper that down. If you get like that, let's do that again. Right. Take out clean brush. Now, nice lemon yellow, aureolin. Okay, very, very strong. Put that with either phthalo blue or cerulean blue. Look how a false, lively green that makes. Now, that's fantastic if that's what you're looking for. Nothing wrong with that at all. It's just extremely vibrant. And it sort of makes your hair stand on end. But if now I want to temper that, if I've mixed it and I like it but I'm not too sure, then I just come in with a little bit of red, and the red will just temper that green back. It will kill it off completely. Stone dead. Look at that, it's gone. Alright, so you can muck about with your greens, and if you find that you've got something that's way too lively going on, then you can just temper that down with some red. Doesn't have to be cadmium red, it can be a little tap of magenta. We'll do very much the same thing. I can't really do it like an oil mix, but you get the idea. You've got that lovely green there, and you've got this horrible green here. Hopefully you can see that on camera. But that just gives you that sort of look to your greens. I just want to put in a lively little bit of light green over here, which is suggestive of the top of that hedge. There's also something coming down there. I want to bring this up a little bit here and make that sort of suggest we've got that going around this building, because I did leave that a little bit low. There is also a lot of white blossom on there. I'm not proposing to put that in. I'm just going to allow that to do what it wants to do now and just settle down. Right, we've got a lot more greens to work on in here, so I'm just going to put a smidge over in one or two places as we were doing earlier. And just this time I'm sort of almost drawing with the brush. Now if you feel that you need to control that a little bit more, then use a finer brush. Use something like a rigger. I've got one in here. I keep looking for it all the time. It takes me ages to find it, but it is in here, I think. There you go. Caught ya. Right. Now then, the rigger. It's a long, thin, tapered brush. Same hair, but it does leave you a very nice drawing point. Mine's been sitting badly, as you can see. And before I go any further, those of you who do paint with using your brushes, especially watercolor brushes, if you sit them in water and rest them in water, then what will happen is the water will make it that the bristle cannot support its weight. What will happen is it will start to bend round like so. And if you then either drag a brush out of the water and leave it bent up with paint in it or whatever, and it will dry at a funny bent angle like this, and you don't know what the heck to do with it, you think you've messed up your brush. Well, actually you haven't. What you can do is, if you boil a kettle of water, take some out immediately into a cup while it's still very, very hot, and just dip the brush into no further into the water than that, because these are glued on. So if you put hot water right up in here, you will stop the glue working and the whole thing will just come apart. But if you just take it to there, take it in there for a few seconds, that's all it needs, and then just gently pull that out like so, and then you've got a lovely straight pointy brush again. And that's always the way to do it. And if you get a wet brush and you've got too much water in it like so, I can't do this on camera, but if you just go, if it's all blunt and you want to point it up, just flick it down like so, and it will point up very, very nicely, ready for your next job. All right, couple of quick tips. I'm going to come back in with some of this green now and just play around with some of these values and suggest little, I don't know, all sorts of little bits and pieces that are going on here. I have no idea what I'm drawing in terms of flowers, but here I'm going to work in this negative space. I'm going to put these greens in like that, and you'll see in a minute how that's going to work. I'm just going to do one or two others like this. I don't know what they could be, long green stems or something. And this is where we are working some negative spaces. So lots of lovely yellow colours, lots of lovely foliage dancing around in this space. There's a heck of a lot down through here, which I'm going to use now. Actually add some Indian yellow to that, make it a little yellower, like that. I have no idea what I've just drawn. Probably created half a dozen new species of flower, but that's great. As long as I get 10% of the marketing rights, I don't mind. So there we are. Lots of little interest now. We've created a lot of interest in this border. Okay, moving forward. Lots of things going on. Like so. Okay, and into that there's more yellow like that. So it really doesn't matter, because you're not actually drawing flowers, you're just drawing loads of lovely colour that hopefully one will decide that they are flowers. Going to cut one or two long spindly things that are in here. They are very, very yellow. Let's put in a little bit more concentrated colour. And again, if you want the colour to stand out, then you do need to make it a little stronger, a little less water, and not so insipid. And that will just come down in here into this space and create lots of lovely shapes moving forward. So you can see already, that's what I've got to be careful of, is leaving, all of a sudden you end up like this piece here with a big flock of birds you've got to start painting in because you splattered everywhere. It happens. But anyway, there we go. Lots of little shapes, little colours that will appear. We've only got the one colour on at the moment, but we're going to actually start adding a few more now. So let's just come in and let's look at some lovely oranges, maybe like so. Little taps, maybe even some lovely reds, deep reds, that works. Lots of lovely little flower heads up into here. And some stronger ones. So for the stronger ones, clean out the palette, get that nice, and go in for your cadmium red. If you've got cadmium red, it's a very strong red and it's an opaque red. So you can have that lovely colour there, and you can start coming in with some of these beautiful roses or whatever they are. I've no idea what they are. And maybe let's tap in a bit of that and a bit of the yellow into the red, just to give it a nicer flush. Like that. I don't want to make the whole thing just red and green. That's not what this is about. Just going to come in with some lovely flower shapes in through here. And here I'm using the rigger. I should really be thinking of using the bigger brush, because I can make some bolder, brassier statements with colour like this into the borders. And just leave that to dry up. Let that just do what it wants to do. Lovely little flash of red flowers through here, maybe. And we can do very much the same thing with all the other values of colour we want. We can come in with some lovely violet colour, and we can put, let's see, let's come in with, let's actually make that, there's a lot of red in there, let's clean that out, do the job properly, and come in with a lot of water and make this a nice violet colour, which we can start putting into some of these. Right, so it's actually mixing with the greens underneath, but I'm not too worried. We've got another value of colour going on, and we can put that in so many other places. That's probably not the best place to start putting it, but we shall see. Just a few taps, because obviously we've got a scale thing going on too, so we've got to watch that as we progress. And one or two areas down through here. Okay. Now then, let's look at something else. Let's look at some magenta now into that blue that we had left over. Bit of orange, dirty that down, so we've got a really like a dirty burnt umber, burnt sienna. And let's just look into some of these. There's this sort of red foliage plant in here which we want to do. Now that will get darker in places, so we can come in with some Indian red into that. See, the colour we mixed actually is not too far off the Indian red itself. Let's come in with some more magenta and a bit of red into that. Get enough to be going on with. Then tap in a little bit of blue, which is the indigo, just to really deepen some of that down in places like that. And so we've got this wonderful dark. Now I want that dark to isolate some of these little red marks. Not all of them, I just want to try and isolate one or two. So again, we're sort of coming round positive shades with the negative shape now. And again here, I ought to be waiting to let this dry, because what's happening is that some of that green and red paint is still a little bit on the wet side. And so once this darker value touches it, it's just dropping away and going into it. So now this is negative space around here. We're using the dark to isolate pockets of green and red and suggest that we've got the negative space around those plants that we're actually painting in. But now if we come out to the other side of the equation, let's come up to here and we start tapping it around like this. Now we're using this dark as a positive space. This is now positive colour we're putting in, because we are, there's the negative space behind it, and this is the positive space. I'll get my teeth put in properly, but it's in front of it. And so one was negative, the other is positive, but it's actually the same colour and the same plant. And that does come through here. So I'm going to actually come in and just tap a bit more of this through the back here. Just playing around with it. So we're using positive and negative marks to isolate various plants. I must leave that to dry. You can see that's just running into that yellow, and I didn't want that to happen, so I'm just going to take a little bit of that off and let that dry up before I carry on. But you get the idea, I think. I hope. Cheers, Luke. Let's have a bit more of a glug. How are we doing for time? I haven't even looked at the time. I have no idea how long we've been going. Not bad, we're just over the hour. That's all right. So while I'm doing that and letting that dry up, let's start making a bit of a darker value green. Let's use that red anyway, not to waste it. A bit of the violet, a bit of the blue in there, make a really dirty grungy green. And that is a really dirty grungy green, so I'm going to kind of make a bit more blue and make a bit of green of it. Everything's going into the mix now, just to turn that back from the grunge to a dirtier colour. And let's just see where we can do with this. I'm coming out of shot a little bit just so I can see through the lights where we are, and I'm using the tip of the brush. Again, I'm using this in what I would call negative format. In other words, the lighter area is what I would call positive because it's on the surface of the plant, it's catching the light from over there. What I'm painting in now, and you have to do this with watercolour, of course, you paint in the darks later, but by doing that I'm now painting negative space because I'm painting the areas of the plant that you're seeing into, and are not on top, they are in deeper recesses as it were and away from the light. There's more darks on this side, of course, because the light's coming from there, and hopefully you sort of get to see what I'm driving at with all this. So now I'm going to go back to the rigger. I want to drop in a bit of a darker, not that darker, and a little bit of green will go nicely. That I'm going to temper that down with a bit of red. Green can be tempered with red, reds can be tempered with green, the same with blue and orange, and the same with yellow and violet. The complementaries of each will temper the other. I'm just popping back in with one or two darker marks here and there. I've got two little pots of colour as it were, so I can suggest lots of little shapes. Now this again, I'm starting to, if you look at this point on the photograph, you'll see that there are lots of lovely little white tips of plants. So I'm just going to suggest, by using the very thin brush, that now we are using negative space. We're painting the dark into the light and creating a negative situation, so we can start to see that the light is the positive, and we're suggesting that these plants are sort of able to be seen. If you get, hopefully I'm explaining that okay. I often forget that I know what I'm looking at and dealing with, and I sometimes forget that people out there just really don't always know exactly what I'm doing, or what I can see. So anyway, you get the idea of that, I hope. Negative and positive space. Right, now no, that's it. I'm not missing anything on the chat. Just checking that that is there. Okay, it's getting warm in here tonight under these lights. I thought it was quite cold, but it's not as cold as I thought. I'm just going to bring some of these marks up into here and just play around with this bush. I'm not going to try and paint the white flowers on. It's possible to do that later. I don't really feel the need to do it. So I'm just going to use some of these that are going across the building in such a way like that. So instead of being white flowers, they're a little bit darker. Like that. And maybe a slightly lesser green, a little bit more yellow into that, as it comes down through here onto this side, because it's catching more light, as I've said. And then scratching this brush all over this surface. A little bit more water, make it move a bit easier. I don't go too far because I've got a lovely lot of dark coming on this side, and I'm trying to keep that little white fringe around this painting, like so. Just one or two more darks over here. something like that. And while I've got it, let's come in slightly bigger brush, but not too much. A little bit of a bigger round than that, and we're just going to put in a bit of a cooler, a little bit of violet to that green, just cool it off a little bit. Okay, and we're just going to, there's a very open form tree. Now I'm actually going to try and lose that, so I'm going to just scratch in. Now I'm using this as almost dry brush, and just going to scratch in a very open form tree like so, and I managed to lose that. Take that down to the edge of the roof, and I'm not sure what trees they are, I'm not that bothered. I just want to suggest them, and as I say, they're very, very open form, so I have no idea. Could be birches, I have no idea what they are, but there you are. Maybe a little light yellow into a couple of them. Just pick up a little light onto this side, like that. Dents in one or two places. And bring that on down. Tell you, the biggest thing with painting things like this is all this green colour, and people don't understand how to paint greens. And in England, believe it or not, we absolutely have the most words for green, I think, in the world, but we absolutely hate too much green in our paintings. So the trick is to shift your greens around, shift them from one value to another, cools to light, fresh and dull, so that you get this whole different look of greens working on in your work, and that then will create a much better and more pleasant painting. Right, let's just finish that off down through here. More bushes, more shrubs and bits and pieces, and we will come back in with a little bit darker value further on, which will be some of the branch work. So going to bring in a little bit of darker, warmer, bit of orange into that. My favourite little mix, and let's just come in with so my glasses seem to be fine. I've got a lot of, I think I'm sort of suffering quite a bit of hay fever. The edges of my eyes are all sort of puffy. I keep taking my glasses off thinking they need cleaning. Just suggesting one or two branches and trunks of this coming down through like so, and one or two up through the top here that are suggestive of what's going on. Maybe take that down that way. Maybe there's another tree there, we can't quite see it, and one or two. It's just very, very suggestive little areas of trunks they're running through. We can't really see too much down through here. We're going to put a thicker trunk there, maybe a thicker one there, to suggest there's definitely two trees there. Come out of that, change the brush, come in with some more darks in here, because this is going to have quite a chunky amount of dark into it. So this big old bush on this side here, and we're going to play around with that for a short while. Right, so, and a lot of water coming in just to allow this to move around and wash. Now you see I've got that shadow in there, that's fine, but I don't want this to go up and into the shadow. I'm going to literally create some grasses around the base of it here, like so, and now we've got the shadow, and that will be fine, and we've got the edge of that bush, and that will be fine. Now I'm just going to excite it with a bit of orange into some of the depth in here, just to break that up a little bit, like that. Okay, and just tease out one or two of these little shapes through here that's suggesting that that's supporting this sort of lighter green stuff that's moving away, like so. Maybe tease one or two bits up into there. Not quite sure where that ends and the trees start. That's fine, not a problem. Okay, just tap in a bit more. There you go. Like I said, you can't see where that starts and stops, and the trees start and stop and not a problem. But I think I'm sort of quite happy with the way that that area there is working here. So we can actually start putting in one or two extra little bits of light through there, suggesting that is going on and on beyond this, what we can see. Okay. Now then, let's leave that for a second and we'll come back. I don't want to make all this wet for me to work in. There's still a bit of wet around here, and I suggest there's a little bit in there. So I want to come back now and look at the roof. Clean these two piles of colour out for the moment. Get rid of that piece of paper, get a fresh piece, start again. Right, we are losing people. I must be boring people tonight. Okay, right, let's come back in with some oranges and a little bit of violet mix, and let's see how dirty that gets. And let's just look at this roof on this side. Just test your colour, a bit more fluid, a bit cooler, and just want to get some of these darks in down through the back here of this roof. Let's put that in, up through to there, and maybe a little bit of red into some of that, just to suggest some variations in the shape and in the form. And like so, take that all the way down to the edge, like that. There you go. Now I want quite an orange, really orange, because I'm not going to be able to keep it, but I just want to put in a suggestion of the edges of the tile on the roofs initially. It won't stay there, but it's just an initial colour. A little bit dark in there when I've got that. That works. I want to come in with very much more of that. Actually, I quite like the idea of doing that into the end of the building. A little bit red, a little bit orange, and a little bit of the blue. Just come in with a much stronger facade to this end gable on the building. Give that some more, a lot more substance, as it were, coming through like that, down underneath, and that supports the whole of the end of that. Now take that now down to the edge of this shrub or bush or whatever, and we can actually do the same thing again. Now we can tap in a little bit of undulation to the top of that growth, whatever that is. It works very nicely. And I'm going to leave the edge there. I don't really want to do anything to that, apart from maybe just strengthen with a bit of violet into the shadow underneath the ridge there, and that works. I'm going to bring that up there in a moment, but not right now. Okay, so let's just look at some of these darker colours in here. Just warm that section of wall through there, just slightly, give that a bit of a warmer look, because that is brick to the rest of the old oak timbers. And to the old oak timbers, it's coming with a lot more violet to our colour. So let's just put that in there and suggest some of our windows and the darks in here, which again are some of the window. We can't quite work out what's going on. And we're going to come in here, and I'm going to work negative space now. I'm going to work in the square slots of the windows and just suggest, not totally, just a little bit of the window frame that we can see. That's just an initial look at that window. We've got to do more to it. That is by no means the end of the story. I'm just going to straighten up my squares. They're a little bit irregular in size. I'll put that down to the Elizabethan builders, not down to the artist. Right, okay, let's just come in with a dark on here. Nearly a dark, not quite the dark, quite a blue dark. So let's come in with a bit more violet and perhaps a tab of blue into that. Let's give these a blue dark in here on these windows. And that hopefully will dry up a little bit lighter than that. But what I will just do is I'll just tempt out a smidge down the center there, which creates a slightly lighter mark. I can suggest where that goes. I can come back in when that's nearly dry and just do the same thing again, which should give me my window frames. And I'm going to use the same colors in these lower windows. So we've got a door or window through there, which we're going to put in like there, and a little one to the side. And then there is a second window or something that we've got going on in here. And so now then, that gives us pretty much a perfect colour there, that purpley blue, to come in and suggest our little upstands of timber. I'm going to put them in like so. Please don't count them. There you go. And then our plate, or the base plate to those timbers, which is a very long timber that runs through there. There is a darker section of it because it goes in under shadow. And then of course we've got all these ones that continue down here, 1, 2, 3 there, down the side, like so. Okay. And then we can barely see them down through the back of this now. They're very pale, so I'm just going to merely just suggest, very simply just suggest 1 or 2 as they go. We just can't quite see what's going on. And the side plate timber that everything there sits on that floor. Alright, so that's all we're going to really do to that part of the building for now. We've got a final little bit to go in, but I do want to come in and look at the main roof. That's quite cool. So I'm going to use a lot of ultramarine blue, maybe even some ultramarine blue violet in there, and just come down in and look at this roof here. I'm using the small of the two round brushes. I'm just going to come in with quite a cool roof colour through here, and that goes off and down at a little bit of an angle, so I must remain there. And then that will come down here and creates not a hard, well, it is a hard edge, but it's a hard soft edge in a way, with that little kink in it. And it comes quite dark down here into this section, a little bit of light at the end of it. And let's just take that all together in one piece. Add a little bit of warmth to the top end here. Gives a little bit of variance to it. Take that all the way through, and it gets a little bit lighter, not cooler, a little bit lighter under there. And I can drag some of that material out later, I'm not too worried about that. Let's just bring that all the way down the side here, like that. And take that all the way across to that section. If you don't want to go further than that, let that then come down and use some various other colours to dirty up the roof, as the age has seen lots of different sort of shades and changes in the slates. And then we're going to bring that down through here. Going to leave a little edge of light just to suggest the ridges on the tile on the corner, and take that all the way through to there, like so. Can't quite see where one bit starts and stops, but something like that. And just going to tap in a bit of dark down here now, just to mix that up a bit. Maybe tap more blue violet down here. Playing around with the edge of this roof. It does come through higher on the ridge there. And just straighten that roof up a little bit. And a little bit of dark through there as well won't hurt. Just under there and coming down that part there. Okay, now that area there seems to be a bit of a hard edge, but I'm going to lose it a little bit. Just take that through there, and at the same time just want to lighten off, take some of that material out. Damp brush, just tease it around and it will literally come out. This is the beauty. Unless it's a real staining colour, you shouldn't have too much problems. A little bit of neat orange, transparent or translucent orange, further to just suggest the edge on there. Then I want to tap in a modicum of dark just there, like so, and lift it. It's so made it not as light as it was, but just dirtied, but lighter than the rest, but dirty, and hopefully that gives us that nice feel to it. All right, now we have got to address the top of the chimneys. They are a lovely yellow with a little bit of violet into that, and again we're going to use a light side and a dark side, but you see me putting the whole thing right the way through, and that's fine, because on one side I will darken it up, and this side I will just take out some, and that will give me a stain on the paper, which is that yellowish stain. And then once that's dry, I can come back in. I want to now look at the chimneys, coming in with some sorry, not that colour, get rid of that, don't want that. A little bit of violet blue into there, and a little bit of red, a little bit of orange. Dirty that up. Let's see what that looks like, because the bricks on here and these are not too dissimilar to the bricks in the house, but because the house is got more stuff around it, you can actually see those red bricks better. But where these chimneys are against that brilliant white sky or light sky, then they're going to are going to be looking a lot more silhouette than you first think they are. So you must be aware of that. So like so. Now that is quite dark, because I've got the top of the capping, which should be a lot lighter, and I missed that. I'm just going to gently, I do mean gently because I could soon mess this up, tease that off and just let that settle down. But I'm going to come all the way down with this value to here, and then down through to there. Just tap that off, don't want it going into the roof. And I'm going to do the same thing here, but I'm going to leave that top corbel or that pillar on the top and just come down here with this colour into this chimney. The same on this one, and then into the brick facing on this one here, like so. Okay, now we're going to let them dry, and then we'll come back into that and carry on. But the house really is forming up quite nicely. Okay, so where do we go next? More greens, more darks, and we start looking at settling off this. I do need a glug. Okay, so we are looking at some darks now. Let's come in and remix. So we're going to use some Aureolin. It's a very great lemon green, lemon yellow to use, but I can also use this. This is phthalo green. It's done almost the same by putting that and that together. It's almost the same as putting that or phthalo together. They're all the same bedfellows, it's got to be said. But I want to make a darker green. And do I want it cooler like that? So I put in some lovely ultramarine blue. And if I don't, I can actually make this a deeper green by putting that phthalo green with some red. Now I always tell people about phthalo green. Phthalocyanine green is a very, very aggressive green. It's an aggressive pigment, and if you leave it untempered on its own, it will just run riot with your painting. But if you actually add that to other colors in your palette, then you will end up with using the one green to do so many greens. It mixes down with so many other colors, it has to be said. Right, I'm going to use it now like that. Very, very strong, punchy color, pushing up into this big, soft bush that I'm calling it a soft bush. I don't know what it is, but I just like that, really pushing up into some of these spaces to isolate some of the house and what have you down the side of the house like that. And we can use that. We can use some of this soft area here to suggest that there's something else there. So we can put that in. We can add in some extra green. We can make that come in through there. We can soften it. We can leave little isolated pockets so we can tap some other colors in. all this sort of stuff now is starting to refine the painting. We can tap down in here or in any of these places, going back to the negative space idea once again. We can come down in here and we can actually, what we can do is we can use some of this colour now, and where this is still wet we can actually tap some little marks into here if we wish to make this a little bit sort of more plant-like, I suppose, more interest to the edge instead of just the small shapes. But you can do almost what you like. You can create little sky holes in the edge of the bush like so. So you get other things and forms, reshape it quite happily. There's just so much you can do at this point. And then we can take this on. It doesn't creep up the side of the roof as my drawing suggests, but that doesn't matter. We'll leave it quite as it is. We can tap those two areas together. And we've got our bush. Alright, now in here we can do a very similar thing, but that is very, very icy green. So we can put some of that together and we can put in a bit of cobalt blue. Like so, a little bit more blue and then a lot more water. And then we can come in with this, what I call like an icier colour blue. Now I don't know what this is. It actually looks to me like a big bamboo stand. I'm pretty sure that's what it is looking at it. I'm sure that's a big regular stand of bamboo. But I could be very wrong. I don't know. There you go. And there's our bamboo stand. Now again, I can take some of these off into the sky, or I can just leave them. I can now come back into here with this. I can actually drop some of this down using the tip of the brush like so, and create the negative spaces and passages between some of these plants like that. And so you start to see other things happening as this bush comes down. You're literally painting around the lighter shapes. The negative shapes you're creating now around the positive shapes that you put in earlier. Like that. Now that on its own doesn't really isolate them. So what you can do while you've got that on, let's come some of that green into this dark. Let's just make it a bit more warmer. And we can then tap some of that neater colour in here and suggest that there's a lot darker going on. Maybe a little too aggressive. We can soften that. We can come back in with a medium green and let that blend away and join down with the other one like so. And you can come back, you can add to any part of this and just increase the suggestion of lots of little bits and pieces going on in here. Like that. Take some of these darks up into this shrub. And it's getting a bit darker maybe over on this side, so we can give that some support down that side. And any of these layers, and we are just layering, we're doing wet layers over dry layers. So at any point we can actually increase the layers. We can let this layer dry and we can then work upon it with another layer. Or, we can also come back in while it's still wet. I'm putting in colour now and it's fusing with what's underneath. And that works too. But all the time, I really am not trying to paint flowers. I'm merely tapping little bits of colour to suggest that there are other things going on in here, that hopefully your eye will connect all those dots up for me and we'll have flowers. Right, I'm just going to use a rigger for a little while. And I want some punchier reds. I'm going to use the cad red, almost neat colours. I'm just going to run one or two of these lovely, beautiful shapes of red in the foreground. Really punchy colours. And again, I will come back in with darker values around them towards the end. one or two richer ones up in here. And then some dirtier ones. Dirty, more grungy values up in here too. More red than I've got them. Like a dirty maroon colour up in there. It could be hollyhocks or gladiator, I don't know what they are, but whatever they are, they're pretty. One or two areas like that. And I want to try and get a couple of really yellowish looking, so there's a lot of water in my yellow paint. I just want to come in and suggest some yellows. It's quite a mustardy yellow plant here. I don't know what it is. I'm going to try and stick that in. Give some for that. And we're going to come in with a darker value behind it. So we've just got this top. Basically, we just painted the top of that in. And one or two other areas of yellow. Kind of dark yellow because it's got a little bit contaminated in the process. If I clean that up, I might be able to make that work for me. I'm going to use some pure Indian yellow, so that's much better. Less contamination in my brush than here. That worked for there because that's the colour, but up here it wasn't working. So I'm just going to put in one or two pure lovely yellows in here. Maybe mix a little bit of the lemon yellow, make a medium yellow out of the two. Give me a slightly fresher yellow. Like so. I have no idea, I keep saying it, what I'm painting, but as long as they look okay, that's all that matters. A couple of yellows up in here. And this is what made Lloyd's garden so beautiful, because they were this massive haphazard, almost indecipherable pattern of growth. But also that the borders he created were big, deep ones. They weren't little shallow ones. They had height, had structure. He would put a great big structural plant right in the middle in several areas. We have some of those plants, I forget the name of them, but they're beautiful plants. If Catherine was around, I could ask her, but she's not here right now, so I can't, so I'll have to leave that one. Right, I'm going to come in here with one or two extra greens now, trying to suggest more of this growth so we can start playing around with some of these shapes. Now you can see that I'm actually using the brush to skate. It's almost dry. Well, it's not, but it is. There's not a lot of water in there, so it's scratching, and I'm flicking it and moving it, trying to create other little ways to create the shapes that I look for. Now there is another plant. Sorry, I just moved the board. There are some, I eat these, nasturtiums. Is it nasturtiums? There's little red ones in the foreground, if any of you know your plants, and I know there are several out there that do. Judy and Wendy. I think the little round green leaves to them, I think these are nasturtiums, in which case my plants that I've painted are way too big. But I love, because you can actually eat them. They are very peppery, and got a lovely flavour to them. So if you ever are in your garden, you've got nasturtium, I think it's nasturtiums, please put me out of my misery. Are they nasturtiums? Before I poison half the world with my suggestions. But I think that's what they are. But if that is what they are, then you can actually just pick them off and eat them. Flowers, the leaves, whatever. They're really tasty. Great in salads. I love them to death. They really are nice. Right, I'm going to tap in one or two dark light values in here. Trying to mix some of these greens up a little bit. Give a little extra value of what's going on. like so. Jimmy should know that snakes are afraid when you and India snakes were never a problem because I worry trod on one. Yes, lovely things, snakes. Right, just bulking some of this out, giving a little bit more relief in one or two places. A few more darks here and there. Just there is a lot of dark in here which I've omitted. I'm going to put a little heavy dark paint in here just to give that a sense of real depth, and then we can come back out of that with some of these lights in here just to finish this corner off, and I think that works quite well, like so. Very dry brush. You can see as I'm leaving marks here how dry that brush was. That's not a problem at all. I'm going to use some of the same colour varies up in here and deepen a little bit more of the indigo. There's a bit too much. Yellow into that and a little bit of the red into that just to take it away from the coolness, and just come back in here, and again I'm going to just tap in some darks around here on this shrub, whatever it is, and then come back into some negative space. It's all about negative. When you're doing these plants, I can't stress it enough, it's negative, positive, negative, positive. You're looking at one and coming back onto the other and creating this whole raft of lovely colours that you're seeing form up now. At least I hope so anyway. Right, just one or two areas up in here. And I want some, I'm going to use some neat magenta. Just come in with some lovely little purple flowers through there. Change the brush mark so you automatically change the type of flower that you're putting in, like so. I hate painting flowers. Most of you know that. Why am I painting flowers? Okay, there you go. There's a nice little stand of something. I don't know what they are. We can put in a few more of those further along here. Just something that's a little bit that colour. And then we can come back in with some reddy oranges, magenta, deeper, dirtier, greeny colours. A little flush of something in there. I'm going to come back in and change that brush to the rigger again and give me some little spiky flower stems up in here on the top, and eat into that negative space and create. I'm going to create some little shadowy areas under some of these where they're cropping out across the pathway as well, so we mustn't forget that. Right, so one or two like that, and there we go. Just keeping it all uneven. There's a lot of white paper between it. It doesn't really matter about that at all. There you go. We can just bring that down through here and have a little bit of space here that's suggesting that there are darks underneath this set of flowers, these yellow flowers. We can take some of this into the negative spaces around them, like so. One or two up in there, like that. Okay, now I'm going to let that dry up for a minute because I can't do much more there, but what I will come in and do is I will use the blues and indigos, very, very dark, and some magenta in there, which makes a real deep purple. And I'm going to use a bit of red just to take that from the pure purple. That is a very, very dark value. To that I want to come in and put in some cobalt blue to one side. I'm first going to go into these windows. I really must watch where I'm laying my hand. I want to come into these windows and just paint in the darker values of these windows here. And in here I'm going to try and leave the little pencil marks such as the mullions. You know, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to come in and I'm going to go straight through this value here, and I'll come back in once that's dry, as I did over here. I'm going to come in here with the window, and the lighter yellow colour that I'm now putting in will become those mullions and bars that I was trying to relieve and leave off. I also said I was going to try and use this brush just to tease out some of that paint. It may be too late now because I forgot. I'm going to try and gently work on that area just to try and tease out a bit of that pigment. Not enough yet. You may need a stronger brush to do that with. So the next size up. Let's go back in, make a point of the brush and just keep working on that area. It will come away, and it will just leave you that suggestion that there is a mullion in the window, just like that. That's all it needed, because it's in shade, so it doesn't really want to make a lot of it. So while we got this real dark, let's just come under here very quickly and put in our shadow under that roof, like so, and a little bit of dark coming down on the edge of that. And we can take that all the way through here and on through under there, all the way to there. Maybe a bit more colour. Take that all the way through to there, and that comes right across those mullions in the windows there. You can't really see them, they're in the shade, like so. And there's got a little bit of dark, you just see it sort of on these bits of these beams coming down, just a little bit catching some dark value there. That works. And let's put in our, there's another window which I'm going to put in just as a suggestion, and then our downpipe down the side of the building, and that pretty much finishes that off. There is something of a window this end, but you can't really see too much. Probably be a mistake to try and put it in. Right, okay, so that's that pretty much done. I need to come in with a bit of blue onto the top of these windows here, just give that a cooler look. Under there, like so. That works. And I think very much the same sort of thing here. There's just a suggestion of windows and glass. You can't really see what's going on. And the same thing in here, which I'm going to do now. I'm going to use the lighter colour to become the timber between the glasses, and then just leave the rest to set up like that. And probably, I'm not quite sure if this is a door or what. We're going to darken that area down, and then just going to put in a very dark area here, which is a window into a timber frame, and something there like that. I think that's all it needs. Looking quite nice, looking very oldie worldy. And the bit that we need to put in now is this area under here, this dark part of this plate. Put that in like so. And a little bit under each of these little timbers coming down like that. Okay, that works. And I'm going to do the same thing under this windowsill. There's a little dark coming down there and a little dark right under there. Maybe not that dark, but it's not so bad. And into the corner here, just give that a little bit more where the light starts on this part of the facade. And we've got the bits in there, but I haven't put the edges on here, so let's come down here with that. That comes down low and off of there, and there's a very slight angle there. You don't see too much of the other roof. And then some darks in here, like that on the chimney, and of course the shape of the corbelled tops there. There's a little ridge line of dirt through there, we can put that in. And there. Okay, that's that bit done. I'm going to do the same up into these, into the corbel on the roofs, and the chimney tops, like so. And just looking for areas that we can sort of make the whole thing a little bit more real. Shape down there. I think that works. I don't want to do too much more to it. I just like what we've got with that. This pretty much is dry now. So we are going to come in with some of these darker values, which will be suggestive of the lovely stained LED light windows that are in this. These are all, to my memory, I'm sure in saying that they are all diamond LED light windows, all original stuff. And it's just an amazing place. I say, if you can get there, I would do. I would really try and make it. Okay, I think that's lovely. I love that look to it. I've got lovely greens and lovely flowers. I'm going to come in with a few more, just a few more violets up in here. That could be, I don't know what they could be, but whatever they are. Just lovely little distant flower heads in there, like that. Coming down into some of these greens. It's a bit more fresh colour, because what I want to do now is come in with some of this deeper green. It is a dark green, so I'm going to use a lot of indigo, I think he says, unsure. And I'm going to put a bit of aureole into that, and I want to come in with a very dark suggestion on the edge of this big hedge. I don't know what sort of hedge it is, but it's a massive hedge. Maybe a little greener on this side. Just being careful now, because I've just put all that lovely purple in. I'm going to be doing some negative work again. Leave that to there and let that suggest that there's just about coming down into those beautiful flowers. There, just tapping one or two negative spaces, clicking that and leaving that nice like so. Let that come down. Pretty abrupt shape there, coming down into grasses or greens or other flowers that are going out of sight. So that works. Good, got away with that. There's a little dark passage in here. We're going to tap that in, like so. And you're looking at, you're putting positive marks, negative marks, positive marks, creating at the same time negative marks. And you can go over the whole thing like this all the way through. Positive marks on the top going into the lights, and then where you've deposited it here, you've got negative spaces coming back in, and that makes this the positive. I keep on about it, but it really is a great technique to create, especially when you've got this huge array of flowers and forms and shapes, and you know, you're not going to try, you can't possibly try and draw each and every one. What you have to do is create a feeling for the whole thing. I don't know what I just put in there. It looks nice, gives a bit of weight in the foreground there. And lets that set up to be a little lighter around it. And I've got to do something over here, I'm not quite sure what yet. I've got to bring something in here that's maybe another form of hedge or something there, with a little bit of a lightish pale top to the side. Let that come down into some flower forms here, like that. Just looking at it all, and I'm going to come in very, very quickly with some grassier greens, a little bit of cooler green, ultramarine, sorry, a little bit of cobalt, and just, I don't want it that heavy. dry brush in some of it, let the paint skate and skip. And here you can come in and you can create, go into that negative space again. And you can quite easily come back out through the top here with, it's a nice edge, but you can actually just put in a little bit of a sort of rough edge if you want to, that's suggestive of the edge of the lawn on the edge of the pathway here. So you've got that lovely green and it's bleeding into this green you just put in. Okay, and I'm going to go up into there because that will eat into that shadow area. And if I want to reform that shadow area, all I've got to do is just do that, just tease that off a little bit, and that will lift enough off to give me that shadow that was there originally. So we literally just glazed over what was there. And I'm going to come in with some little bits of blues here and there, just scratch that in to begin with. Very abusive on the brush, gotta say. But now I'm going to put some more water to that and just play around with that. And that tease into places here. Just create a little bit of form in this foreground grass area. And it's all rough grass. This is just left for the insects and the butterflies and whatever you, as just a rough set aside in the garden itself. And it really does work nicely. But I'm putting some darker values in. There are one or two there, but this adds weight to the whole of this. So that's why I'm doing that. And I'm just going to put in, I didn't want that to happen, come on. Come out of it, off, off, off. Flicking that brush again, not good. Right, just going to come in and just play around with some of these marks in here, literally, and that is a done deal. Take that off. Now then, I have got to look at my lovely pathway. Now what am I going to do with that? Well, I've been looking at it all the way through the painting. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with some sienna. And it's going to be I don't want it white. It would be easy to leave that white. I have to make sure everything is dry. So I'm going to use the hairdryer in a minute. But I'm going to mix up some colour first. So we're using raw sienna. And I'm going to tap in a little bit of that violet blue. And that's giving me a dirty buff. Just let me go and get the hairdryer. And now's the time to mute your stuff. But I do need to just make sure this area through here is really dry. Okay, that should be dry enough now just to run this value, test it towards this side, because if anything, this is a little darker than this side. Let's just run it in. I think it needs a little bit more blue, so let's come in with a bit more of that violet blue. Just cool it down, take a lot of this colour out as we come into here. It doesn't matter if you overlap anything at this stage, because we just want to give this path a tint more than anything else. A little bit more weight down here is fine, because all we're doing with that is we are just adding weight to the whole of the picture. There we are, pretty much done, and all we've got to do is just come in with some of the stuff that fills in the cracks, as it were. Just going to give it a little weight through here, just the colour variation at the very bottom, like so. There we are. Alright, let that dry up, and I'm just going to use the hairdryer one last time. Okay, sorry about that, guys and girls. But what you've got now is you've got still a very pale pathway. Perfect. But it's not the stark white that we had, which I didn't really want. I'm giving it a warm and a cool value throughout. More cool down through here. It just adds a little bit more weight to this bottom part of the picture. Here, one could argue, is that right? Is that wrong? I like this because if you look at the rough ground on the other side, you can't see it. The grass is blown here, there and everywhere. And I quite like these blooms working in this because it just gives a supportive role to this. This is where the area is. There's the focus of our whole picture, of course. We've got this lovely border leading up to the house. The path now will have a few lines in it, not by any means the number that are in the photograph. I do not need to worry about that, but this becomes a supporting act to all of this. I think it works very, very nicely. Okay, so it's pretty much the last part of this painting. I'm just going to come in with a pretty average mix of dirty, reddy green colour. And I'm going to first off look at some of the areas down here. So I'm just going to come in and just literally draw in a line so. And maybe another one there and another one through there like that. And maybe a half one through there. And they'll just sort of mix them up a little bit. Like that. Don't want to put too much in. I don't even really want that much in, if I'm honest with you. I'm just wanting to put in just the odd little mark. Like so. Okay. That's all it really wants. And I'm going to put in one or two little bits of shadow underneath, just to mix up and mess up some of the contour between that and the edges. I'm going to look at it for a couple of seconds, and I don't know what time we're at. How long we've been going, people? Trying to see. I seem to have lost it off my screen, so I can't see how long we've been chatting for and streaming for. Can someone tell me how long we've been streaming? Because it seems to have disappeared off my feed. Completely gone. Right, I'm just quickly looking at some. I've missed most of the chat. I do apologise. This has been quite a complex painting to do for you tonight, with regards all the different values that are going on. I have missed something out. I see that. Just want to do that. A little bit of warm, a little bit of blue, too much. But I just want to come in with a darker value on this part of the roof up here. It is a dirty, dark blue colour, but I didn't give it enough before. So I'm just going to put that in there like so. And that's got a little bit of red to it there. I think that's all it needs. Maybe just a touch and flush of red coming down through there. There you go. That was missing, and that's now in place. 2 hours, Ben. Good Lord. I'm going to curl up and turn into a pumpkin if I go much longer. Right. Okay. I think we're pretty much done. I really do. I keep looking at it, and there's always something you can add in. Maybe something a little bit through this center section here. Just putting one or two darks in there, just to give something going on. Very random, that drag the brush one side and another, as it were. Take some of those greens, darker greens, up into some of these reds. That's actually not a bad idea, because that then supports the reds, and of course then they've got stems and bits and stalks and stuff to hang on to. Right, so, and even some of these yellow forms, just, you know, I don't know what they are, but it doesn't matter. So we're just I's and T's now. We're just coming to the end of this, There's going to be I's and T's. And you can, you know, these look like flag irises. Ah, see, I know one plant, flag iris. And did I call those nasturtiums before? No one did tell me what they were, unless it's back up in the chat that I've missed. So yeah, so anyway, so I hope the feed tonight was okay. I was a bit unsure. I think I see a little message back up there somewhere from Luke that he had a bit of buffering. I hope it wasn't too severe, Luke, and it didn't spoil your enjoyment. Yeah, I've had a lot of fun. But I haven't read the chat. I've got to say, I haven't been reading it because I have been quite into this and looking and you know, just studying what I'm doing and trying to keep ahead of all these flowers. I do hope that Mr. Lloyd, if he's looking down on us and me right now, that he's not too disappointed with my effort on his beautiful garden and homes of Great Dixter. But I've enjoyed this one, guys. I'm going to put a sign to it and then we'll do the big reveal. So I'm going to sign it down here out the way. There we go. Signed, done. Let's take off the reveal. The best bit. But I'm going to finish my Guinness. There wasn't a lot left. Right, let's start taking this off and see what we got underneath. There we are. One big reveal, one picture of Great Dixter. Nasturtiums, thanks Judy. I eat the heck out of them. I love them. They're just great. You get the leaves tender enough. They're really great in salads. And the flowers make some wonderful colours in your salads too. But there we are. I've had a lot of fun with this one. I hope you've enjoyed watching it. I hope you've got something from it. I think we've had a little bit more expressive sort of look into watercolors, and in particular things like all these myriad of different greens, colors, and the, you know, there's just an amazing array of flowers and color in that garden. I really wanted to bring that across, and this is, in my way, the best way of doing it. Now I'm sure there are lots of different ways. This is just my way, but I think it's a great way of just pop back to see the finished painting. Lovely, Paul. Thanks, John. Thanks for coming back. I'm sorry I didn't see you go, mate. But I would have told you off. No, I wouldn't. But thanks for coming back and having a look. See, I have had a heap of fun with this. I've got to say, when I decided to paint it, and it was Catherine that suggested that I did it, I looked at it and I thought, oh God, I don't do houses, very many of them, and I certainly don't do flowers, which most of you know. But I think I've actually managed to bring the two together and bring it off, and I'm really very pleased with the end result. Anything can be made better. This I wasn't sure of, but it's growing on me. It's just like the same flush as there is in the photograph. Yeah, it is what it is. I've enjoyed it. Anything can be made better, but I love it. Cheers, John. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I tell you what I'm going to be doing on next week on Monday is oil, and I plan to be painting a lily pond with some lilies. in it. Actually, also from Great Dixter. So there we are. It's going to be part of Great Dixter's Lily Pond that I'm going to be doing on Monday. So you do need to tune in from that. And also there is a watercolor tutorial that has been released on my channel this afternoon. So that's my weekly Friday film for you to watch. And that is a little bit of the River Rother as it winds up round the beautiful area just under Bodiam Castle. So that's the lesson that I put out this morning. So that also, like last week's watercolor, has a lot of this business of negative, positive space. I know I keep banging on about it, but it really is a great way of suggesting lots of different forms with very little work, and it works very, very well. I'm going to do a Monet. I'm going to leave the bridge out, Judy. I'm not putting the bridge in. I'm not doing that. That's too cliche. Why do a series of paintings based around the house? Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Monet style? I don't know about Monet style. I can only paint my style, Ben. For better or for worse, my style. It's all I've got. I wasn't going to do this in oil. Maybe I'm just replying to Mark. Mark, I'm not going to do this in oil, mate. Not yet. I might do. I've got plans, but I didn't want to keep getting straight from one subject in watercolor and straight in oil. So I thought I'd break that cycle. And we may well come back and look at this subject maybe in oils another day. But certainly for now, the next one will be the lilies. I've been itching to do some lilies, and I found the whole series of photographs on this the other day, and that I did at the time. And in fact, if you look at the little thumbnail that I put up to advertise my streams, there's a picture of me standing at my easel. Well, I'm actually standing on the bank underneath the tree at Great Dixter, right next to the lily pond, and I'm actually doing a plein air of that very lily pond. So that's what you will see part of on Monday. Derek, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I don't know how many we ended up. The numbers kept going up and down. I saw sometimes we're at 26, then down about 14. We're now at about 17. So it's great. And, you know, if any of you have been watching, and there's Paul's Creative Bridget. Hello. Sorry I didn't say hello to you earlier, Bridget. I didn't see it. I was so engrossed in this. I tell you, it's been like it all day. In fact, the last 2 days I've been trying to not film paintings that I've been painting. I've been doing an oil painting, and I've sort of taken snapshots at the drawing stage, then intermediate stages through to the end. Well, I've actually only managed that properly once. I've done 3 or 4 paintings. I keep forgetting. I get so engrossed with the painting itself that I forget to stop and pick my iPad up and take another picture. So I've got to try and get it in my head. And it's the same with this. I got so engrossed with this tonight that I actually missed quite a bit of the chat. I'll probably read back through it a little bit. And, oh, before you all go, something I did promise you, nearly forgot. If you're all still there, there we are. Let me put that down. That is the finished gull painting that we did as an oil last week. I did work on many areas of the white water around. I changed a bit on the gull and lightened 1 or 2 areas and put some more blue into the neck and the throat, and did quite a bit of work really, but I think it works very, very well now. I'm really, really pleased. Oh, I see. Yeah, well, maybe I get the idea with what you're saying. It has that sort of looseness about it, that sort of color that is merely color and not form, which, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say totally Monet style, but I totally understand where you're coming from. But yeah, no, I appreciate that, John. Thank you very much. Thank you, Bridget. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. I don't know, did you see the stream on the oil painting on Friday, Bridget? But this was the conclusion. I didn't quite get it finished for everybody on Monday night, but I over the next day or so I had another crack at it, and I'm really quite chuffed with this painting. Not sure where I'm going to put it up yet, but I really am very pleased with it. So I said to you, I promised you that I'd show it to you tonight in its finished form, and there it is. So hope you like that. I'll leave that there for a minute, and then we're back to Great Dixter. So there we are. Thanks everybody. You've been stars as usual. Much obliged for your company tonight. I've run out of beer. Not a good sign. But a nice cold water with some fruit in does just as nicely. Yeah, thank you, Derek, for that. I appreciate that comment. And what I was trying to say is that there's a lot of people that are sitting on the side of this video watching it, and that, as I keep telling everybody, is fantastic. I really appreciate that. But if you do want to just sort of tap in and just sort of say, hi, it's so-and-so from so-and-so, fantastic. I do like that. I just welcome you, and that'll be it. You don't have to say any more. You don't even have to say that. It's just nice to know who's around. Talking of which, is Spain still watching us? I haven't heard from Spain for a little while. Yeah. But there we go. So don't forget then, Friday it's going to be an oil, and we're going to be doing a lily pond in oil. And on next Friday, watercolour. I haven't got a clue yet. I have no idea. But if you've got any thoughts, put them in the comment section underneath this video tomorrow. It will take up until then to come online. So then put any comments you like, whether you've seen something, whether you want me to answer something, anything at all. Just use the comment section to converse with me, and I'll always answer your comments. Maybe not exactly at that moment, but I will get onto them very, very soon after. So don't forget that. But in the meantime, people, have a great weekend. The weekend is yet upon us again, and I am looking to maybe, hopefully, fingers crossed, this social distancing, the government will capitulate and come down to a metre. Everyone else is at a metre. I can't see why we can't be. And in which case, then there's a very great chance that I can start bringing back some of my painting groups at the gallery. And so all of my students that are watching, please stay in close touch with me. I actually heard from a couple of others who haven't been doing any of this with you. They've been in touch and see what's going on. So likewise, any of you that are watching this that are my students, then please, 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 I implore you to stay in touch with me. Either look at my blog post, which will go up, or other things, something that I will get messages out there to as many of you as I can, that we are going to be starting back, or we're going to try and do this, we're going to try and do that. And that would be fantastic to see faces again and be able to teach people physically again, which would be great fun. I do miss the camaraderie, and I do miss that association with all you guys and girls out there. So with that all said, people, I'm gassing on. I guess it's time to let you all get away and to do something else in your lives than sit and watch me. Which I'm not doing anything anymore. But I really have enjoyed your company. I always enjoy your company when the painting turns out how I want it, or more or less how I want it. So tonight, yeah, I really had a lot of fun with this one, and I'm glad I've done it. And it pushed me, got to tell you, I will tell you, it pushed me hard to do this one. It's not a subject that comes easy to me, so I was surprised that it's gone quite as well as it has. But I'm really pleased that it has, got to say. Anyway, people, I don't know what the time is. We're 11 minutes past the hour, so I'm guessing we are cracking on for well over 2 hours of streaming, and your patience as always has been fantastic putting up with it for a long one. I don't seem to be able to do very fast streams, but I've looked around at other people and many of them don't do that many large sort of short streams. They tend to be quite long ones. So I don't think I'm out of the ballpark when it comes to the length of time I'm doing a stream for. So as long as you don't mind them being 2 hours plus, I'm more than happy to talk and paint for 2 hours plus. I really enjoy it. And I mean, I've done 4 paintings today. I got up this morning to start editing today's video that went out this afternoon, and because of a little issue that I had where I hadn't transcoded some of the footage, that had to be done before I could continue. So that gave me an hour to paint a picture, which I did. I put it out on my Instagram and sold it at lunchtime. Way to go! I love that. So yeah, that was great. And I also did a one last night, and I've done 2 this afternoon, and this one for you now. So I just paint. I just love to paint. I just love to do it. And you know, it's fantastic in lockdown in a sense because I've got so much time to paint pictures, and that's great. So night night, guys. Thank you very much for joining me, and I'm going to let you get on now, and I'm going to go and put a bit of ice in this because I've had all the beer I'm having tonight. So thank you very, very much, everybody. Again, as I say, live streams Monday. Don't forget, patrons, Sunday night. Your stream is Sunday night. I haven't got a clue, but if you want an oil or a watercolour or a charcoal, simply tell me, give me a call. You've got the Patreon page on Facebook to liaise with me. We have got a new patron that came on today. Fantastic. I'm not sure, I haven't talked to her yet, but hopefully she will get involved, and so that'll be another one of our number, and so that may grow. So anyway, people, I shall turn this stream off. I'll let everybody say goodbye to each other, and now actually I think one chat is working on my thing, but this chat is not working. So I don't know what's going on. I've got a chat that's working on one and not on the other. So everyone's saying goodbye, which I can see. Jim, that's very kind of you to say that. I'm just looking at the chat on my other computer on my laptop, because it seems to be that the chat seems to have stopped. I was unable to connect a chat for some reason on there. So I've actually been looking at one when everybody else has been chatting on the other one. So I'm going to have to read that back. So I can see there's a lot of conversation gone on about the gull painting. I wonder why no one was talking about it, because my chat had stopped. But there you go. I'm sorry about that. I can't get it back, but I'm reading it off of the other one now. Yes, Bridget, goodbye to you. Thank you very much for joining us, and hope to see you next week. Jeff, the same to you, my friend. Thank you. Jim, thank you so much. James, thank you very much, mate, if you're still there. Thank you very much. Judy, the same. Wendy, I've enjoyed it. Mark, thank you very much. John, thank you. Derek's gone, I think. And anybody else who's there that I haven't said goodbye to, thank you so much for joining me. And I'm going to turn the stream off now. Bye-bye all. Bye-bye.